Always a pleasure to be here with Philip O'Farrell from Viacom. How are you today? Are you excited for the Easter holiday? 4 days.
Excited, and it's been sunny all week, and I expect therefore it's not going to be very nice for the weekend, but we'll make the best of it.
That is what I've heard too. It doesn't sound like it's going to be great. Have you got any big plans?
I'm having a subtle weekend with friends. That's
fair enough. I mean, you told me off camera what it was, and it's not so subtle, but let's leave it there. Exactly. It's been a big week for news stories, and it's been a big week for United, who it's not been the best press coverage for them recently. United Airlines. I don't know about what's happened with the United football team. I haven't been following it. But I mean, the thing that's shocking for me is obviously the incident was shown on social media and it just spread like wildfire. How do you think brands can handle social media these days? You know, what challenges does it pose to them?
So I'd say it poses opportunity. And I think that our business is based around a whole cross-section of audience, as you well know, from very young children through to adults. And they're born with social media at the heart of their lives. And therefore they expect the citizen journalism mentality, and brands should expect that as well. For us, it's about making sure that means interactions with our brands on every platform all the time, always on, fans first. So for a media brand, that's at the absolute core, and that's what we've lived with. That's what we started off with, going back to the days of shows like MTV TRL, where it was all about having a conversation with the audience. I think non-media brands are going to have to get used to that fact that we've been living with for 30 odd years. So it's a different, the other brands, non-media brands, are in a different space obviously, so they're going to learn a lot from companies like ours.
Yeah, they're going to have a crash course, I think. Yeah, you guys obviously do an awful lot with social media, and you know really how to channel it and stuff. Another thing that you obviously do a lot with is VR. I was in Paris last week, Desperado's launch event for their new bottle. So they do these kind of artworks. Have you got any exciting plans of VR coming up? Is it something you're going to work more with?
Well, as you know from coming to our showcases around our big events, VR has been at the heart of our planning strategy for the last 3 years. So as VR emerged as a product offering, we started to look at it. So beyond, well before it's kind of announced to the public, we started to work with the tech firms and how we might integrate into our world. I think the really meaningful activations we started 2 to 3 years ago around the Kids' Choice Awards, the MTV EMAs, the MTV VMAs, and you'll have seen, we were just chatting off camera about Ed Sheeran. If you remember from I think it was year before last MTV EMAs, we started with a VR tour backstage, which included Diego the dog. That's one of the ladies that works on the show, brings a border terrier along, and he went into Ed Sheeran's dressing room, and that's kind of where the VR tour started and ends up on stage, as well as filming the actual event in pure VR multi-camera, as well as streaming live. For me, yeah, it's still early days. I think when we sent out the Google Cardboards as a viewing for putting in a Samsung or a HTC phone, it starts to feel like it's going to become mainstream. I think as Facebook and other platforms embrace for the consumer to use VR, and the little plug-in VR or the 360 cams are starting to come to market, now it's getting exciting. So this year's MTV EMA, which is going to be in London, as you know, that's where we're getting really excited, because it means more people are going to be able to consume all the great content we're making. And I just think it's going to slowly become mainstream. And we've spoken over many years, and there's been things I'm like, not so sure. VR is real, and it is going to be something that becomes more and more of people's lives, whether it's consumed as 360 video or true VR. Those kind of lines blur, but it's a great experience, and why not?
Very true. And another event I went to this week was focused more on AI and bots, and I know you guys have done stuff with bots at your events as well. Yes, exactly. Everyone loves a bot these days. I was also quite interested. It was a really interesting event in general, talking about the kind of sci-fi side of it to some extent, and how people have this image in their head that they're going to get taken over by robots. But we were kind of reassured it's not going to be a big deal. It's going to be fine. Do you think people should be frightened of AI, or do you think they should embrace it?
I think embrace, understand, What interests our business is how you can add more entertainment value to an existing property. So the biggest activation, let's call it, around bot was around last year's MTV EMAs, where if someone went onto Facebook and asked a question, rather than it just being, what time's the show on, or what time's Ed Sheeran's performance, for example, it would reply with the time, but it would know what country you're in and therefore where your time zone's going to be. It would reply in the language that you asked the question in, but then it would say, here's 6 videos we've got of Ed Sheeran's latest track. Oh, and by the way, do you know we do VR? Click here, download the VR app onto the MTV EMA app. So it's adding value to an experience, and the dwell time of viewing experience goes up in a staggering way. It also then allows you to integrate commerce, so you might want to say, you're enjoying this Ed Sheeran promo video, do you want to click for the album download? So if it's used well, it's adding more value for a consumer, and that's key, really, making sure that the fan gets something. If it's a kind of a call center experience which doesn't add a layer of intimacy, then I think it's a really bad thing to do. So the key there is treating it just like you would, for us anyway, as a piece of scripted drama or television. It has to be treated with the respect to the medium it's on. And if you get that wrong, it's going to be a horrendous experience.
It's a really hard one as well, I think, because there's this, you want it to feel realistic, like you're having a real conversation, but at the same time, if the bubble bursts, it can be quite shocking. So you have to make people kind of know what's going.
You need to know it's an automated experience, but it's really enjoyable and immersive. Then it's fine. If you lie and say you're going to speak to someone, that's just stupid. So to say this is an automated process, well, I wouldn't say process, it's an entertainment platform for us, so it's exciting, engaging, you get loads of free stuff, so talk to us. And separately, AI, which I think is more about how you can create that more immersive experience beyond, so go multi-layer experience on an experience. That's really important, because remember, we're all multitasking. We weren't when we were young, or certainly when I was young. We weren't multitasking. We simply weren't. It was, I hate to say, certainly for me anyway, it was like kind of the end perhaps-ish of CFAX, teletext and faxes. That was about as far as multitasking goes. Now I've got, just on me now, you have smartwatches, you have connected devices, connected clothing, at least 1 or 2 mobile devices, often 3, and watching TV, thankfully not movies still, pretty much. People actually sit and watch a movie, but generally, people are watching TV, they're on different social media platforms. All of those social media platforms we're on. So using AI to augment some of those experiences and then subtly integrate brands is what we've got really good at. And I think that's what's exciting for us, is to take all these platforms and then get a brand to be excited about working with us, so a brand can come to us and access the 40-50 million followers of SpongeBob, for example, or the hundreds of millions of active interactive fans on the MTV brand. That's where it's exciting for us.
You mentioned smartwatches. Are you a fan of smartwatches? Going back a little bit.
Well, interesting. I bought 2.
Okay.
I've gifted 2. I think if you're going to wear wearable tech for a reason, then they're really good. And some people that I would say 50% of the people I know are obsessed now with their, mainly Apple Watch, to be fair. Yeah. But I think that's just because the others are not necessarily proliferated enough yet. I think as fashion catches up, that's going to really change the dial. I saw this week alone there were 2 new smartwatches came to the market that are fashion brands. So as that starts to proliferate and they become more mainstream, and I was thinking, are they actually going to sell loads of units? Will it be 100,000 units? Will it be 1 million? Will it be 50,000? It kind of doesn't matter, because brands now feel they have to have that as part of their portfolio. So if you walk into a store and you're looking at watches and our MTV Age demo, you're going to go, am I going to go and buy a Marc Jacobs or a Swatch or a Armani, those kind of, call them mid-range watch products, or an Apple Watch or a Samsung watch? there's a different decision process happening, and so long as the interface within the product does all it needs to do, and then you've got a really beautiful product. Now, I actually really like the Apple Watch. I like its simplicity, but I don't wear one every day because I actually quite like having a separate device. But equally, if I was very obsessed with fitness, would I have a Fitband and a watch, both, all three, including an iPhone? That I think that's going to shake down over time. I think they're here to stay. I think they're good products, and there's a huge market for them, and people haven't even discovered it yet. And fashion will help change the discovery, I believe.
I was talking about it because the CEO of Huawei made a comment saying that he feels that they're kind of not really catching on as much. And I was wondering, like as you said about CFAX and things like that, if it's going to be one of these ones that fades out and becomes an old technology. But it sounds like you're a big fan of them, and the fashion side of it would definitely make me more inclined to wear one, because I don't really find that they go with my look. They're a little bit too modern. So if they can come up with a vintage looking smartwatch, might be a bit of a push.
There will be, if not there are, and then it's then a question of volumes, and then it goes into how easy it is for people to license the different tech into a product. But I think, specifically on someone commenting on that marketplace, the people to ask are the trend setters. And our audience, and I would say that's the latter part of the Nickelodeon audience and the MTV audience all the way through, are defining trends. They're defining fashion. They're defining what is going to be a successful product. They're doing that themselves. They do it with us at their side on social media and on TV networks. And that's what's the absolute key to any brand that's out there. They need to be talking to brands such as ours, the MTVs, the Nickelodeons. There are others, of course, but on a global scale, they would talk to us. And we're having a constant conversation with that audience on all our networks. And that's where the smart money is. If you're selling a tech or a fashion product, you need to be on the ball as to what sensibilities are shifting, because it's the playground, it's the online, it's that whole conversation, and things can become very trendy very quickly when you have certainly the weight of Viacom behind it.
Well, or the weight of Kendall Jenner, who has been quite focused on in the news recently with her advert with Pepsi. Obviously, you guys really understand that market. What do you think could have been done differently? What would you guys do to attract the audience that Pepsi were aiming to attract in that?
Sure. So attracting an audience, and let's just say in a diversity category, is close to my heart. As you know, I won the European Diversity Champion of the Year award for this year. That's because it's not my day job to do diversity within Viacom, but it's the core of everything we do. And we have diversity groups across our entire organisation. Pick any topic, we have a diversity group, and try and make diversity mainstream. We try and make niche mainstream. That's what our audience expect. That's what our audience are. And whether that means you're a young gay goth, or you're a hip hop lesbian, or you're black, white, yellow, that shouldn't be something that identifies the way that you market to people. And I think that you have to, certainly for us, we would want to be inclusive, smart, and an open dialogue with how you communicate. And sometimes that does mean you can't do everything mass. You have to be multi-niche, as we would call it. So you've got to go into the tribes, into the fan bases, and be amazing, and be true. And if you're not, you get sussed very quickly, and that goes for any brand. And I think, it's kind of basic principles.
Fabulous. Well, thank you very much for your time. Enjoy your Easter eggs with your totally non-famous friends over the weekend.